My name is Thomas Reed. I am 74 years old. I live in Savannah, Georgia. I am a Christian man, a family man. I ran a grocery store in this community for 22 years. I sang in my church choir every Sunday for 31 years. I coached youth baseball for a decade. I had never in my life been inside a police station for anything except to donate food at Christmas time. I served 11 years in a Georgia state prison for a crime I did not commit. Or more precisely, for a crime I did not know was happening while I was committing the one act that made me look guilty. I drove my nephew away from the scene of a robbery and a killing. I did not know there was a scene. I did not know anyone had died. I just knew it was 2 in the morning, and Marcus called and said, "Uncle, I need you." And I went, because that is what I had always done, and it is the only thing I would do again. Even now, even knowing what it cost.
Pause. I want to tell you my whole story today. Not just the part about the prison, all of it, from the beginning. Because the prison does not make sense without the life before it. And the life before it was a good life, a genuinely good life. And I want you to understand that because I want you to understand what was taken, not just years, not just freedom, a whole world, a whole life. Gone in one phone call, this is my story. I was born in 1950 in Savannah, Georgia. My family had been in Savannah for 4 generations. My great-grandfather helped build one of the oldest black churches in the city. That church is still standing. I was baptized in it. I was married in it. My daughters were baptized in it. It is where I went every Sunday of my life from birth until the morning I could no longer go anywhere freely. My father, Deacon Ernest Reed, was a quiet man of enormous dignity. He worked for the city parks department for 38 years.
He never raised his voice in anger that I can remember. He did not need to. When my father looked at you a certain way, you understood everything that needed to be understood. My mother, Rosie, was the warmth of our house. She cooked, she sang, she prayed out loud while she worked. The house was always full of people and food and the sound of her voice. I grew up inside a kind of love that I did not fully understand until I was inside a cell and it was gone. I was the oldest of 5 children. That meant I understood responsibility before most children my age. You watched the younger ones. You set the example. You did not embarrass the family. Those were not rules in our house. They were simply the air we breathed. I carried that sense of responsibility my entire life. It is the thing that made me the man I am, and it is the thing that put me in prison. I finished high school in 1968. I was 17 years old, and the city felt like it was on fire. The country felt like it was on fire. But my father sat me down the morning after graduation and said, "Thomas, the world outside this house is going to try to tell you who you are before you get the chance to tell it yourself. Do not let it. You decide who Thomas Reed is, and then you be that man every single day, no matter what." I have tried to honor those words every day of my life. Some days were easier than others, but I never stopped trying. I met Linda Josephine Carter at a church social in the spring of 1976. She was 27 years old, and she was the most self-possessed person I had ever encountered. Not loud, not performing for anyone, just completely and entirely herself, comfortable in her own skin in a way that made everyone around her feel comfortable too. I was 26 years old, and I had been in the Army for 4 years, and I thought I had seen something of the world. Linda Carter humbled me in about 45 minutes of conversation. We were married in 1979 at my family's church. Her father walked her down the aisle and shook my hand afterward, and looked me in the eye for a long time without speaking. Then he said, "She is the best thing our family ever produced. You treat her accordingly." I said, "Yes, sir," and I meant it. I meant it for 31 years, until the night I got in that car, and the morning everything fell apart. We had two daughters, Diane in 1981 and Cheryl in 1984. Beautiful girls, smart girls. Linda taught them to read before they started school. I taught them to count money and to shake hands and to look people in the eye. We were raising women, not just children, women. In 1982, I opened Reed's Family Grocery on Jefferson Street. I had saved for 6 years. I took a small business loan from a black-owned bank. My father helped me paint the store the first weekend. My mother stocked the shelves the day before we opened. The whole neighborhood came through in the first week. People I had known my entire life, buying their groceries from me, shaking my hand, saying they were proud of me. I cannot tell you what that felt like. There is no word for it that does it justice. The store was not glamorous, but it was mine. I knew every customer by name. I extended credit to families when times were tight because I remembered what tight times felt like. I sponsored the Little League team and the church Christmas drive. That store was more than a business. It was my place in my community. It was the thing I had built. And for 22 years, it stood on Jefferson Street as the most honest evidence that Thomas Reed had lived a good life. Then I closed it. Because I had no choice. Because I was in a prison cell in Reedsville, Georgia. Marcus Everett was my sister Claudine's son. He was born in 1975, and from his very first years, it was clear that something in Marcus's wiring was different. Not bad, not evil, just restless, searching, unable to stay still in the life that was in front of him. His father left when Marcus was 4. Claudine did everything a mother could do. But Marcus grew up with a hole in him where a father should have been. And he spent his whole young life trying to fill it with the wrong things and the wrong people. I stepped in when Marcus was about 14. I gave him a job at the store on weekends, stocking shelves, sweeping, deliveries. I paid him fairly, and I talked to him the way my father had talked to me. Directly, honestly, without condescension. For a few years, it worked. Marcus was good with the customers. He had his grandfather's easy way with people. I thought I was reaching him. By his early 20s, Marcus had drifted into a crowd I did not trust. Not violent men, as far as I knew. Just men with too much time and not enough to show for it. I spoke to Marcus about it every time I saw him. He always listened. He always promised. And I always believed him because I wanted to believe him. Because giving up on Marcus felt like giving up on something my father would never have given up on. So I kept showing up. I kept being the one Marcus could call, even at 2 in the morning, especially at 2 in the morning. It was the 14th of August, 2003. A Thursday night. I know the date without looking it up. It is one of those dates that burns itself into you. I had been in bed since 10 o'clock. Linda was asleep beside me. The girls were grown by then. Diane had her own apartment. Cheryl was finishing college in Atlanta. The house was quiet and still, the way a house gets when the children are grown and gone. My phone rang at 14 minutes past 2 in the morning. It was Marcus. His voice was not right, too fast, too quiet at the same time. He said, "Uncle Thomas, I need you to come get me. Please, right now. I cannot call nobody else. Please come." I asked him where he was. He gave me a street corner. I asked him what happened. He said, "Please, just come. I will explain." I asked him one more time, "Marcus, are you safe?" He said, "Yes, sir. Just please come." So I got up. I put on my clothes. I wrote a note for Linda because she is a light sleeper and I did not want her to worry if she woke up. I wrote, "Gone to help Marcus. Back soon." I left that note on the kitchen table, and I drove out into the night toward a street corner I had never been to in my life. Marcus was standing alone under a streetlight when I pulled up. He got in the car quickly, too quickly. I drove. He said, "Turn here, turn there, get on the highway." He did not look at me. His hands were shaking on his knees. I asked him again what happened. He said, "It is fine. Just keep driving. I am fine." I drove for 20 minutes. Then I saw the lights behind me. 3 police cars. I pulled over immediately because that is what you do when you are innocent. You cooperate. You have nothing to hide. I put both hands on the steering wheel and I said to Marcus, "Do not say anything foolish." I do not even know today if he heard me. The officer approached the window with his hand on his holster. He asked me where I was coming from. I told him I had picked up my nephew. He asked Marcus to step out of the vehicle. Then he asked me to step out of the vehicle. They separated us. I stood by the hood of my car in the warm August night and I thought, there is some kind of misunderstanding here. Whatever Marcus got himself into tonight, I will explain that I just came to pick him up. They will understand. I had done nothing wrong. I was completely certain of that. And that certainty, that absolute faith in my own innocence, is what made the next 6 months so devastating. Because innocence, I would learn, is not a shield. It is just a fact. And facts, without money and without power, do not always decide what happens to you. What had happened that night, as I eventually pieced together? Marcus and 2 other men had robbed a convenience store on the south side. During the robbery, one of the other men shot the store clerk. The clerk survived, but barely. Marcus ran. His partners ran in different directions. One of them was caught immediately. In exchange for a reduced sentence, that man identified Marcus. Marcus had been at the scene of a felony robbery and aggravated assault, and I had driven him away from it. Under Georgia law, that made me an accessory after the fact. The prosecutor argued I knew what had happened. I did not know. But I could not prove what I did not know. I could not afford a private attorney. I spent everything I had saved keeping the store running and raising my daughters. Linda sold her car. We borrowed from family. We raised enough to hire a private attorney for the first 6 weeks. Then the money ran out. The court appointed a public defender, a young man, 28 years old, carrying 85 cases at the same time. He was not a bad person. He was a drowning person. There is a difference. But the result for me was the same. The trial lasted 4 days. The prosecution built a picture of a man who knew exactly what he was doing when he drove to that street corner at 2 in the morning. They used my note to Linda against me, gone to help Marcus, back soon, as evidence of premeditation. As if a guilty man writes a note to his sleeping life. My attorney objected. The objection was overruled. Marcus testified. He told the truth about his own involvement, but his attorney advised him to say that he had not told me the details, which was true, but it was not enough to save me. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. I sat in that courtroom beside my attorney and I prayed. I prayed the way my mother had taught me to pray, not asking for a specific outcome, just asking for the strength to accept whatever came as part of a plan I could not fully see. I was convicted on the accessory charge. The judge sentenced me to 11 years. Linda made a sound behind me when they said it, a sound I had never heard from her before and hope I never hear again. I did not turn around. I did not want her to see my face in that moment, because in that moment, I did not look the way I wanted her to remember me. I entered Georgia State Prison in January of 2004. I was 53 years old. I had been a free man, a business owner, a deacon, a father, a husband for my entire adult life. And then I was a number in a gray uniform, walking through a gate that locked behind me. I will not tell you that prison broke me. It did not. But I will tell you what it did. It took 11 years of my life, years I cannot get back. It took the store. We could not keep it running without me.
Linda tried. She hired managers. She worked 12-hour days. We closed it in 2006. 22 years of work. Gone. It took the house eventually. Medical bills, legal fees, the cost of staying alive while your income disappears, they add up in ways you cannot predict. Linda moved into a smaller place in 2008. It almost took my marriage. Linda visited every month for the first 4 years, then every other month, then twice a year. I did not blame her. She had a life to live, daughters to support. A woman can only drive 3 hours each way to sit across a table from a man behind glass for so many years before the distance becomes something more than physical. I prayed that she would stay. I never asked her to. Asking her to stay would have been asking her to make my sentence her sentence, and she had not done anything wrong. I survived by keeping my mind occupied. I read every book I could get access to. I became a kind of unofficial tutor for younger men in the facility, helping them with reading and math and writing letters to their families. I found a way to be useful, because usefulness, I believe, is what keeps a soul alive when everything else is stripped away. If you can still be of service to someone, you still have a reason to get up in the morning. I held on to that. Marcus visited me twice in 11 years. The first time was in 2005. He came with Claudine. He could not look at me. He kept saying, "I am sorry, Uncle Thomas. I am so sorry." I told him I forgave him, not because I did not feel the weight of what his silence had cost me, but because carrying unforgiveness in that place would have finished the job the prison started. I forgave him for myself. I want to be honest about that. The forgiveness was for me. He has to answer for his own choices, on his own terms. I was released in November of 2014. I was 63 years old. Linda picked me up. We drove home mostly in silence. Not an uncomfortable silence, just the silence of two people who have been through something together that has no words large enough to describe it. She had stayed. After everything, the closed store, the sold house, the 11 years, Linda was at that gate. I do not have language adequate to tell you what that meant. Rebuilding was slow. I was 63 with an 11-year employment gap and a felony conviction record. The conviction was for accessory after the fact. It did not matter to most employers. A record is a record. I took work where I could find it. Maintenance, custodial, stock work. I did not complain. I was grateful to be outside under a sky with no walls around it. My daughters had lives of their own now. Diane lived in Atlanta with her husband and 2 children. Cheryl was in Charlotte. They had grown into women without their father present. Diane had graduated college, gotten married, had children, all while I was inside. I missed all of it. There is a kind of grief that does not go away. It just becomes something you learn to carry alongside everything else. My grandchildren call me Grandpa Thomas now, and when they say it, I feel both the fullness of the present and the ache of everything I was not there for. Both things at the same time. That is what it is to have lost years. You never fully return to the timeline you were supposed to be on. People ask me what I would do differently, and I want to answer that honestly, because I have thought about it for 20 years. I would have asked more questions on that phone call, not because I did not trust Marcus, but because love without discernment is not wisdom, it is just emotion. My father taught me to be a man of character,
But he also taught me that a man of character thinks before he acts. I acted on feeling that night, on instinct, on love. And love without information cost me 11 years. That is not a reason to stop loving.
It is a reason to love with your eyes open. I would have saved more money for legal defense, not because I expected to need it, but because the American legal system is not designed equally, and every person, regardless of their innocence, should have resources to defend themselves when that system turns its eye toward them. A good attorney is not a luxury. It is the difference between 11 years and going home. And the hardest one. I would have set boundaries with Marcus years earlier. Not abandoned him, never abandoned him, but boundaries. There is a difference between being available to someone and making yourself unconditionally accessible to their consequences. I was unconditionally accessible. And at 2 in the morning on August 14th, 2003, that cost me everything I had built. I am not bitter. I want to be clear about that because I know how this story sounds. But bitterness would mean that what happened to me had the final word on who I am. It does not. I am Thomas Reed. I am a Christian man, a husband, a father, a grandfather. I still sing in the choir on Sundays. Not in the same church, we had to move, but in a church, still standing, still singing. That is mine. And no judge, no jury, no prison, no nephew can take what is truly yours. My name is Thomas Reed. I am 74 years old, and I have told you the truth today. All of it. Because the truth is the only thing I have that cost me nothing to give away. If you are someone who loves a person who is heading toward trouble, be there for them. But ask questions. Know what you are walking into before you walk. And make sure the people you love for unconditionally are loving you back with that same commitment. Because love is not supposed to be one direction only. If this story spoke to something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. There are people out there right now making the phone call I made, getting in the car I got into. Maybe this story slows them down for 30 seconds. Maybe that 30 seconds changes everything. Subscribe to Senior Untold Stories. New story every week. Real lives, hard lessons, unheard voices. Leave a comment below. Tell me what stayed with you. I read every word. God bless you. Good night.